안녕하세요. 저희 수아랑 원장님이 잠깐 여기 차 세우러 가셔가지고 곧 들어오실 거예요. 어, 안 들려요.
안녕하세요, 마스터님.
안녕하세요.
일주일 잘 보내셨어요?
예.
네. 한 가지 제가 킥 애스크 여쭤보고 싶은데요. 혹시 넥스 위 투스데이가 아닌 웬스데이로 스위치 시켜 주실 수 있어요? 스피치를?
네, 할 수 있어요. No problem.
바꿔 주실 수 있으시겠어요?
네.
고맙습니다. 그럼 넥스 위에는 웬스데이 스피치를 해주세요.
오케이.
위에는 웬스데이. 그리고 지난번에 누구지? 어, 컬린, 컬린이 그때 뭐 이렇게 잘못 언더스탠 해가지고 못했어요 스피치를. 그
언제요?
라스 웬스데이인가 그분이 라스 웬스데이 네 그래서 못했는데 그분이 이번 넥스 웬스데이도 캐나다로 갑자기 출장을 가는 바람에
네.
그래서 투스데이 프로그램하고 스피치 빌려주시면 자기가 할 수 있는데 그게 아니면 본인이 그날은 비행기를 타는 날이라서 어려움이 있다고
네.
전에 와서 제가 양해를 얻습니다.
오케이. No problem.
오케이, 고맙습니다. 넥스 위에는 웬스데이 스피치 해주세요.
네.
네, 고맙습니다. 아직 학생들 안 돼. 들어와 안 된다. 안 된다.
Okay, we will start soon. Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me? Yes, no, maybe so. I don't know. All right, all right. Okay, we'll be starting soon. Just give me 1 second and we'll start soon. What time is it? 59. Oh boy. 저기 요, 요 링크 한 번만 더 저한테 보내줄 수 있어요? 줌 링크?
이거 줌 링크 말씀하시는 거예요?
네네. 또 한
네.
번만 보내줄 수 있어요?
여기 채트로 보내나? 보냈어요. 네. 여기도 보내고.
카톡에다가요.
네, 지금 보내고 계세요.
오케이. So, do we have 1 million students yet? Almost. I'm just trying to get on with my other computer. So how many of you guys were here last week when I was talking about the riots, the Koreatown riots? Haigu. Okay. Uh Cheon wasn't here. Okay. Just give me 1 second. For some reason, like, you know how it is when you're trying to do something, your computer doesn't want to work. It's one of those days. Did my face disappear on the other screen?
네, 안 보이세요. 어디 갔어? 여기 있다.
Okay. All right. So today I want to talk about identity. Who am I? Do we have anybody here that was born in Korea? Raise your hand. So you're made in Korea. And the rest of you guys were made in the USA? Yeah, I was made in Korea and I was imported here to the US when I was 2 years old. And so I grew up here and I have almost no memory of Korea until I became an adult when I first went back to Korea. How many of you feel like Korea is your parents' country and not your country? Some of you guys? Yeah, that's how I grew up. How many of you guys feel like Korea is my country, just like America is my country? Some of you guys? Okay. Yeah. So we're Korean American for the most part. Some of you guys might have other mixed race in you. My cousins are half Korean, and then I have another cousin who's quarter Korean. And so, but they still have Korean blood. So to me, they're Korean. And so I've agreed to talk to you guys about identity. What does it mean to live in the US as a Korean American? How many of you guys here just are like I was, don't really care much about Koreans or your Korean root or identity? Anybody here? It's like, whatever, no big deal. Okay. Do you guys remember when I talked about my Korean identity crisis when I was growing up? Yeah. And how I said that I was ashamed of being Korean. I hope none of you guys are like that, right? Now it's kind of cool to be Korean. But when I grew up, so you guys know that the US had slavery back in the day. And then they got rid of slavery, but they kept segregation, basically categorizing white people and black people and other minorities as subhuman almost, or second class citizens. And you guys know that whites and blacks couldn't even sit on a bus together next to each other. They had the black section in the back, and the front was made left for the white people to sit down. Well, Asians at that time were considered minority, like we are today, and they were forced to sit in the back with the black people. And when I came to the US, they got rid of segregation, but it hadn't been too long since they got rid of it. And just because you changed the law doesn't mean you changed their mind. So they've had slavery for hundreds of years, and then they had segregation for a very, 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 very long time. And people, that's all they knew, is that black people and people of other ethnicities are not first class citizens, second class citizens. And so they just got rid of segregation not too long ago, but the mind, people still had segregation in their mind. And you can't just break a habit that quickly. So they still have this mindset. Okay, we got rid of segregation. You could sit next to me, but I don't like you. And they were openly racist back when I was a younger kid. And so I had blatant racist comments made to me, even by my preschool teacher. And it was acceptable back then. You guys remember Colin when he first talked about 도산안창호? Do you guys remember who 도산안창호 is? I have nobody nodding their head, yes or no? Yes, no, maybe so, I don't know. Okay, so you guys don't remember who 도산안창호 is? But very briefly, he was one of the first Koreans to come to the US over 121 years ago, on the very first boat to arrive with Korean people. And he was the first married couple to come with his wife. And they were very, very young. And when they came to the US, they left Korea hoping for a better future to make some money. And then Japan occupied Korea, and Korea no longer existed as Korea. And so they got stuck here. But none of that had been taught in the classrooms. And so I never grew up hearing any of the names of any Korean from our past until I became an adult. Now I'm going to start sharing my screen with you guys real quick. Hold on.
Oh, birthday boy.
Okay, there we go. Identity. I'm going to talk about identity today. Now, so does anybody have any identity crisis in here? You guys are teenagers. You guys are supposed to have identity crisis. You're supposed to have, like, who am I? Why am I here? Why was I born? What am I doing on the face of this earth? You're supposed to have questions like that, right? Okay. I did. When I was younger, I had superhuman identity crisis. Like, who am I? I'm neither white, I'm neither Asian. I was an Asian thinking I was white, and the white people are like, no, you're not. And I was very confused. So, who am I? This is a seminar, this is a lecture that I've done many times. I'm part of the UN, United Nations. I'm part of an NGO. That's why this particular shirt that I have on right now is my NGO uniform. And so today, let's talk about this. I'm a Korean American, but when I grew up, you guys all heard of this, right? The banana. You're yellow outside and white inside. Well, that's who I was. I still am. But and so I had issues with my parents, especially. Like my parents, they were so embarrassing. Like when I had my friends come over, I didn't have any Asian friends. So when my friends would come over, they would say that our house smelled like feet. You know why? Have you ever heard of that? That Korean people's house smell like feet? Do you know why? Somebody take a guess.
Is it because we take our shoe off in the house?
No, no. It's because 된장. You know, when you make 된장국, it makes the house smell like feet. So my friends are like, yeah, Korean parents, they come home from work and they're tired and they just make a soup, and so they make 된장찌개 or kimchi-jjigae. It's very easy to make, very fast, and so it made the house smell like feet. But so how many of you guys have been called a racist Asian name like this? Anybody? Has okay, so Jacob has anybody else? Raise your hand. Come on, none of you guys have been made fun of for being Asian? Okay. Well, all right. So I've been called everything in the book, from chink and made fun of like this. And yeah, this is what I was called, a stupid chink, when I was growing up. And the teachers didn't say anything about it. And they make fun of you like this, saying that you have slant eyes and that you talk like this, hello. So, and I'm neither Japanese or Chinese, but they called me Jap and Chink and all this. And so these are just stuff that I saw grow up. Now, this actually happened in America, where they took Japanese people and they locked them up. If you were Japanese, you got locked up. And this happened during World War II, during the 1940s, mid 40s. And this is America. They got real racist. they were fighting a war against Japan, they were fighting a war against Germany. But Germans looked like Americans, so they didn't put them in jail. But they took all the Japanese and stuck them in concentration camps. And Japanese people were American citizens, but they lost their homes and they were taken out of school and they were stuck in these prisons, the whole family. And so they put these kind of signs up. This is a white man's neighborhood. You keep moving, get out of here. We don't want you. No Japs served here. And so there was this culture of blatant racism. Look at even these cartoons. Can you imagine Popeye? Look at this. Bugs Bunny? The Flintstones? It was okay to be racist against Asians. Now, if you go to the Daeane Gunmine, they have a pin, and that pin says that you are Korean. Now, imagine if you were a Korean person living in the US during World War II, and all the Japanese are locked up, and you're walking on the street, and people are like, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in prison. And do you think people would have just left you alone? Or do you think people might have bothered you quite considerably? Like it's their duty to inform the cops that there's a nip or a Jap walking around that shouldn't be here. So Korean people had this patch or pin they wore on their clothes saying that I'm Korean. And that was the only way to avoid being harassed or beaten up on the streets. Now, Dosan Anchang-ho was one of the first pioneers to move here, and he had a son. And his son, well, he had a couple sons, and one of them turned out to be the first Korean American actor. And he also became the first Korean American Eagle Scout. And his second son, or his youngest son, is Ralph An, and he passed away just a couple years ago. But he was also a movie star, and I met him when I was working at Warner Brothers as a voice coach, and I had to teach him how to speak Korean. But he told me some very interesting stories of what it was like to grow up in America, and especially during World War II, because all the second generation Korean Americans, for the most part, couldn't wait to join the military and go fight against Japan. Because they felt it was their duty, because at that time, Japan occupied Korea, and they wanted to fight against Japan to help liberate Korea. So he told me some very interesting stories. And there's a lot of history that needs to be shared about our Korean American identity. So I'm hoping that you guys don't go through the same struggle that I did, wondering, who am I? And meeting frustration and depression and confusion, being angry, depressed, and even expressing it. When I was younger, I was a punker. I was a punk rock because I was angry. And I joined the military at 14, just like this guy, young. I joined the Junior Marine Corps, and it kind of helped me vent and find at least that I love this country, the US. So as a Korean American, I want to help you guys connect with your identity. First of all, I hope that you come to realize that Korea is your country as well, because in our bodies, if you have one parent who's Korean, or even if your parents half Korean, you have Korean DNA in your body. That means whether you're a quarter Korean, a half Korean, or full Korean, you're still Korean. And we are Koreans living in the United States. And so we have two countries that we should fall in love with and love and protect with all our hearts. Now, I asked this question last week. I don't know if you guys remember the answer. Do you know, or maybe I didn't ask this question. Does anybody know what obligations there are if you are a US citizen, your duty to this country? Can anybody answer that? Your duty as a US citizen. I'm sure most of you guys are US citizens here. If you were born here, you're an American citizen. You have to know this. What is your duty as a US citizen? Come off of mute and give me some answers. Come on, somebody. No, you guys don't take American civics class? Come on, they teach you civics. How many of you think it's your obligation to vote? Okay, we got one brave guy. Okay. And how many of you think anything else? Nobody else? Okay. It's your right to vote, but you're not obligated. You don't have to vote if you don't want to, but that's a privilege. But as an American citizen, you're obligated to follow the law. That's a good citizen and a bad citizen. Somebody who follows the law. So your duty as a Korean American is to follow the law of the United States, the country that you live in. And it's also a privilege to be able to serve this country, serve it in the military, serve it in politics. And one way of becoming a good citizen is to go to a good school, to get a good job, make money, and support the economy. But you also have to understand that you're a Korean American. So across the ocean, there's Korea. And there's another country full of people that have the same DNA that you do. Your DNA is not American DNA, it's Korean DNA. And your last names, for the most part, are Korean last names. And if you look at your faces are Asian, Korean faces. And your hair is Korean color hair. So that means no matter how you slice it, no matter how you dice it, no matter how you might object to it and think otherwise, you are 100% Korean. And so your parents think you have to get 100% on your test. How many of your parents expect you to do 100% anything? And look at this one, 100% on your test? Oh, you better do better next time. Korean people's expectation, Korean parents' expectation. Yeah, and you guys have seen this one, A? You got an A? That's just average. Yeah, you got to get higher than an A. B is bad. Okay, let me skip all this stuff. Oh, back to this. This is something I talked about last week. You guys have to become the glue. So right now in Koreatown, we are unifying the different organizations. So we got the Korean American Federation, we have the Korean Consulate General, and we have one by one different organizations joining to celebrate Korean American Day, to celebrate the 3.1, Yu-Gi-Oh, Haro 15일, and Korean American Day. Did I mention that we have Korean American Day in America last week? Yes. Do you remember what day it is? You don't remember? Come on. Does anybody know when Christmas is? Surely you must all remember Christmas, right? December 25. Does everybody remember New Year's Day? Certainly you do. Okay. But you're Korean American. This day you must remember. It's January 13. From now on, for the rest of your life, remember that. That day was set aside in America for you to celebrate the fact that you're Korean American. So we must honor and respect that day. And look, this is New York. New York, they have a huge gathering. But in Koreatown, we have a gathering of few dozen people. To me, that's sad. That's very, very sad that we only have a couple dozen people, not even 100 people get together and we celebrate Korean American Day, our day. How many of you guys have celebrated Martin Luther King Day? You guys have heard of Cinco de Mayo, right? Mexican Independence Day. Why are we celebrating that here in America? And then we don't even celebrate Korean American Day. And we're Korean. Does that sound like something's wrong with the picture? Somebody's not doing something right here. Why aren't our churches celebrating Korean American Day? When you go to, how many of you guys go to a Korean church? Not American church, but a Korean church. And when you go there, it's mostly Korean people, right? Some churches are some of the most segregated places in America. On Sunday, Black churches, Hispanic churches, Korean churches, Chinese churches, white churches, we all separate. But when you go to a Korean church, you go there because you want to be with Korean people. But my question is, the Korean church should be the salt and light of the society. And Korean churches don't celebrate Korean American Day. And I'm wondering why. And there's all these different organizations if you look up here. And some of us, we celebrate it. But there are hundreds of Korean organizations. And less than like 5 or maybe 10 Korean American organizations celebrate Korean American Day. I think that's an embarrassment in our community. So you guys need to grow up, become adults, and say, hey, my generation, we need to unify. We need to celebrate our day set aside for us. Oh, this is my uniform that I have on right now. This uniform in the wings comes from this, legions. And you know, angels were created to help people, right? That's the whole purpose of angels. And some of you guys are believers, some of you guys go to church, but when Jesus was hung on the cross, he says, do you think that I cannot call out to my Father and come off of this cross right now if I wanted to? If I asked, he will send 12 legions of angels just because I asked for it. And so I've adopted this concept of legions of angels. And these legions of angels will go out into the community and help. And so my dream is that you guys will be inspired and that a seed will be planted and that you would like to become part of sharing your identity within your community. Because, you know, when I grew up, even my age right now, I'm considered 1.5 generation. That means I came here when I was younger and I grew up here, but I wasn't born here. But if you're born here, you're second generation. But even amongst 1.5 generation, there are Korean Americans who say, I don't care if I'm Korean. It means nothing to me. And when I talk to them, they say, dude, I'm white. I'm American. That's all I care about. And to me, that's very sad when you reject your identity, reject your heritage, reject who you are. And I'm like, dude, look at your face. You're Korean. Even if you hate it, even if you deny it. So my dream is that you guys will dream bigger and have a purpose. As Korean Americans, there's no Korean American national youth movement giving you guys a dream. Now, you guys have all heard of Martin Luther King, right? Of course you did. If you grew up in the United States and you went to school and you don't know Martin Luther King, you're going to flunk. Well, Martin Luther King gave a speech, and that was, I have a dream. And then shortly after that speech, he was killed. Do you know why he was killed? They don't teach you this in school. Think about it. There was segregation. Black people are second class. They cannot be equal to a white person. But Martin Luther King, a black man, stood up in Washington, D.C., and he had the audacity to say that he has a dream that black people will one day be the same as a white person. He said, my dream is that my children will grow up to be equal. He didn't say better than. He said just to be the same. And in America where there was segregation, how dare you stand up in Washington, D.C. and give such a speech? Who do you think you are? And so he was quickly shut up. They assassinated him because he was dangerous. How dare you say such a thing as black becoming equal to white? No way. So they killed him. But it was too late. He already planted a seed in people's minds. Subconsciously, he said, one day, black and white will be the same. And subconsciously, he started changing America. And he started changing the young minds of black people and white kids to accept and embrace that idea. But that seed had to be planted. And if you told Martin Luther King when he had that speech, dude, within the next 50 years, there's going to be a black president, he would have said, no way. I'm hoping that within the next 50 years, my kids will just be the same, that they'll be treated fairly. That's all. But dude, he planted a seed in America that within the next 50 years, the president of the United States became a black president. He would have never dreamt that possible. But it happened because somebody planted a seed. And I'm hoping to plant that seed in you guys. We are told, when you guys get older, you will experience this. When you go apply for college, when you apply for a job, when you try to get insurance, when you try to buy a car, anything, when they give you an application to fill out, it always asks you, are you white? And then, are you Asian, black, or whatever else? In the United States, they still want to know what race you are. But what does it matter, right? We're all Americans. We live here. If I wasn't born here, well, I'm here now, and I love this country. Why does it matter? Why does it matter if I'm Asian or black or Hispanic? I'm an American. But in the United States, it still matters. And they categorize us. They say, you're an Asian American, you're African American, you're Hispanic American. They label us. We are labeled here. Okay, not they. I'm sorry. We are labeled in the United States because I'm part of they. You are they. You know, people always say they, right? Who is they? We are they. So, in the country that we live in, that we call home, there's still separation, categorizing. We are Korean American. So you need to embrace that, because when you don't embrace it, you don't know who you are. You're walking around in the dark. If you think you're just American, that's like standing on one leg. It's hard to go through life standing on one leg. But when you stand on two legs, the Korean side and the American side, you become a whole person instead of half a person. And when you become a whole person, now you can run. Now you can see full potential of what you can become. There are stereotypes. There are good stereotypes and not so flattering stereotypes. We will seize the moment, and we will be proud of who we are as Korean Americans. Might as well. Don't walk this life shamed of who you are like I did. I reflect back on that, and I thank God that I went through that difficulty of being ashamed of who I am. Because if I didn't go through that, today I wouldn't be so proud. When you could be proud of who you are and stand tall and say, I have nothing to be ashamed of, then you can become the full potential. Seek your identity. This is 100-year-old picture. These Korean Americans lived through segregation. They lived through blatant oppression, racism. They couldn't even own a home. Did you know that? Until the late 60s, minorities couldn't even own a home. So if you were Korean and you were born here and you said, I want to buy a house, they're like, nope, you can't. Even though you're an American citizen, you're not a white American citizen, so you can't. So they just were straight up, nope. But now it's changed. Life has changed. Now it's not so hard. Now we have every right. We have all the rights. These are ajumas. But you should be proud and embrace the fact that you're Korean and American. How many of you guys have been to Korea? So about half of you. Let me see. Keep your hands up real quick. Let me go to the next page. Okay. Wow, a lot of you guys. How many of you guys think Korea's okay? The ones that have been to Korea, how many of you went there and it turned out to be better than you thought it would be? Yeah. Did anybody go there and like, oh my God, this place sucks? Jonathan, you did? You kept your hand up. Okay. Yeah. So Korea was, I went first time in my life when I was 36 and it blew my mind. It was so advanced. Um, I was blown away and I was so proud. And then the Korean people are so nice. And then when I went to Korea for the first time in my life, I felt comfortable because everybody was Korean. And then I realized, oh my God, my whole life, it's like I lived in somebody else's home. And I'm finally home. That feeling like I've been living in somebody else's house. And I finally found out where my home is. And it was the most peaceful I've ever been in my life, to be surrounded by everybody who looked like me. And so I fell in love with Korea, and it became my mission that all Koreans should journey to Korea and to go see what your people look like and to feel what it feels like to be home. If you haven't gone to Korea once, I highly, highly advise you to go. We're going to go next year, by the way, if anybody's interested in going. When I go, I take youth there, and we do Marine Corps training, Korean Rock Marines, and the Rock Army and the Rock Marine. Rock means the Republic of Korea. I served in the U.S. Army for 6 years. I came out as a staff sergeant and combat engineer. I blew up a lot of stuff. I was in war. And no matter where you go, everybody respects the Rock Marines and the Rock Army. They're like, dude, the Koreans have some of the most impressive military in the world. And I've taken youth to Korea, and we do 1 week of Rock Marine training. And I kid you not, you will go there and you'll come out thinking you're one bad, tough guy. And girls, we take girls too. And the girls they do outstanding. They do better than the guys. So next summer, if you guys are interested in going to Korea and learning about your culture and finding about what it is that the Rock Marines do and get a taste of the Marine Corps training, get in contact with me and we'll take you and we go there and do a 3-week program. We don't do like most of the programs that go there, they do 1 week to 10 days, but we do 3 weeks. Last year we went and we did a super concert, K-pop concert. 19, it was the largest K-pop concert in Korean history. 19 bands came together in one night and they performed a super concert. And we were there. And I mean, like New Jean and all the groups were there. And it was just mind-blowing to be there. Anyways, we're gonna go there again next year. So if you guys are interested in connecting with your heritage, let me know and you could be part of it. And let me see. So these are just pictures of what happened during the COVID. You guys don't understand how lucky you guys are to live now in America as Korean Americans. You guys are a special breed. Korean Americans. Even when Korea, if you're from America, they like you. And it's a special breed. Only you guys can say, I am Korean American. Nobody else in the world can say that. And in Korea, they love Americans. And especially if you're Korean, you can go and make friends like that. So anybody, if any of you want to go to college in Korea, I highly recommend that, or go back there in Korea to get your degree. I would highly recommend you going there. It'll be some of the best time in your life. Now, I'm going to wrap it up real quick. The whole point that I spent with you talking about your Korean American identity is this: embrace who you are. No matter what you do, people are looking at you and they're judging you. How many of you guys have seen other races and like, oh, look at them, they're so violent, or they're so noisy, and or things like that? Well, people are looking at you and judging you. Dosan Changho said this: no matter what you do, you represent your race and your country. And at that time, he picked oranges because that's what the Koreans did. They did intensive, hard labor. And it was so hard that young people, they were literally teenagers, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, came to the US. They worked 6 days a week, 12-hour days, picking oranges and working in farms. 6 days. And they were paid like 30 cents a day. Chump change. And they worked so hard that they worked themselves to death. But Dosan Changho said, even when you're picking an orange, you represent your people. So do it the best you can. So when the farmers were picking day laborers to come pick oranges, they could pick the Chinese, the Filipinos, the Mexicans, and the Koreans. You know who they preferred the most? They preferred the Koreans. You know why? Because they were led by Dosan Changho. And Dosan Changho said, you represent your people. So when you pick oranges, you pick the best oranges. And so they work the hardest, and they always produce the best crops. So always remember, America's watching you and judging you. So no matter what you do, you represent. Go to the best college, do the best you can. And there's that word, model minority. I don't know if you've heard of it, but people say Asians are the model minority. In a way, that's a good thing and a bad thing, but we always try to embrace the positive side. Society looks at Korean people as non-violent, smart, educated, well-driven, hardworking people. Where do you think that came from? That image didn't just come out of nowhere, right? The past generations established that. You need to carry on that. Study your heritage, learn your heritage. That's what this whole summer program is about. That you're going to connect with your identity, and that you'll find who you are. Anybody have any questions about what it was like growing up, or about identity?
I have a question about Korean American Day.
Sure.
How do people in Koreatown, New York, and like other places in the US celebrate Korean American Day?
Great question. Beautiful question. So in Los Angeles, remember I told you that it's the largest Korean population in the world outside of Korea? Only couple organizations, they celebrate that day by getting together and having a ceremony. But when you go, there's no second generation. There's barely like 2 or 3, 1.5, my age, people that grew up here from a young age that speak English better than we do Koreans. And that's about it. And so since Korean American Day has been started, I've been advocating and asking Korean groups, let's meet together in one place. And so they started doing that. And a couple years ago, they rented out this huge hall, but it's pretty much invite only. And I keep getting upset. I'm like, you need to make this public and make it in a very large venue where thousands of people can come. The second generation have a right to be here and celebrate this with you guys. Why is this privilege by invite only? Why the leadership of Koreatown? Why aren't you putting on a civic event and inviting the Korean American population, the whole 1 million of us, to come and celebrate this day? And so it's like trying to talk to the wall, but it's changing. So I'm advocating, but you know the Haninhae. It's the Korean American Federation of Los Angeles in LA. The Haninhae is a 1.5 generation guy, the president, and he's changing things. And so we're working together trying to make an event. So I want you guys to connect with me. I have a Facebook page. You guys are like, oh, I don't do Facebook. It's all about Instagram now. I have an Instagram page too. I want you guys to connect with me because I'll keep you guys informed, and I will post events that happen that pertain to you guys, your generation, that you should be at. And gradually there might be a couple dozen of you. And then maybe in a half a decade, 5-6 years, there might be 1,000 of you. And then maybe a decade from now, there might be 10,000 of you gathering together to celebrate Korean American Day the way it should be. You know, Martin Luther King Day, they have a parade. When you go down there, there's thousands of people there. Even the Korean community goes there to march in the parade. We should have a Korean American Day parade. So these are things I'm advocating for, but you guys need to get involved. You guys need to take leadership. Remember I told you guys, get involved in Korean American organizations, youth organizations, get involved, become the leaders in there, or go up to the leaders and say, hey, I strongly feel that we should work with other organizations together, not as competition, but as cooperation, helping each other. And we should advocate for our day, Korean American Day. Why are we not celebrating it? This is our day. And if we don't celebrate it, then that's a shame. It's like having how many of you, if you were given a Lamborghini, would put it in the garage and never drive it and never even show anybody? That would be a shame. Yeah, that's the same thing. We were given a day that's designated as a holiday for us. We don't even celebrate it. We don't even recognize it. 99.9% of you guys don't even know that it exists. In New York, they gather in downtown and thousands come up. But New York it's like 10 times smaller than Koreatown, LA, but they do it. What's wrong with Los Angeles? What's wrong with Orange County? Yeah, it's because we don't care. I care, but not enough people care, and not enough people are voicing. So I need some of you guys to work with me to help organize, to unify the first generation and the second generation youth organizations, because there are a lot of youth organizations. Imagine if we work together. Imagine the power, the manpower, or the people power and the resources that we can. Wow, I dream of that day. I have a dream that the Korean American community will rise up and that one of you guys will become the next president. And if you want to do it, I will help you. And I will find thousands of people, tens of thousands of people who will help you. But you guys got to want it. Anybody else? Thank you for the question. By the way, next year, remember January 13th. Don't forget that date. Look it up and make sure you connect with me, and I will keep you informed. Any other questions?
Sorry, you can go. I have a question.
Yes.
So you said you had like an identity crisis, right? Like you told me like you told us last class that like you wanted to be like more American.
Yes,
But
I thought I was white.
well, yeah, but you also told us that you like experienced like discriminations, like those like racist words towards Asians.
Yes.
Oh, if you heard those words when you were young, while you were thinking that you were American, like if you heard those like racist words towards you by like your white peers, how come that didn't like drive you to like, just not want to become more Korean and just like, I don't know, resent the feelings of being hated
Oh,
by white
yeah.
peers?
So, well, that's what drove me away from my identity, because being Korean made me a target, and being Korean is why I got ostracized and made fun of. And so I didn't want to embrace it. I wanted to get as far away from it as and become white as I can, so I would be less discriminated. If you wear, okay, an example, if you're wearing a t-shirt and it says something that people don't like, you take that shirt off so people leave you alone, right? That's what it was. I didn't want to embrace being Korean because that's why people were making fun of me. So I had blonde streaks of hair in my head, and I tried to be as white as I can, and there was nothing Korean about me except my eyes, which I couldn't do anything about. and and so I didn't want to become Korean because that's why I was being made fun of. That's why I hated who I was. But that made me stronger. And that's who and so when I was younger, when you're younger, you go, why me? Why do I have to deal with this? And you resent and you blame your parents. Why did you bring me to the US, and why am I Korean? But then now as an adult and I look back on it, oh my God, I'm so grateful I went through that, because iron toughens iron. It made me stronger. It made me more powerful. It made me resilient. Um, and it made me later on more proud and love deeper the fact that I'm Korean. It's like, oh, like food. Like when you're younger, sometimes you're like, oh, I don't like this food. Oh, this food's nasty, right? But then when you become older and you taste it, like, oh my God, this is so good. I didn't know it. I was so immature when I was younger. I didn't realize how good this food is. It's like that. My identity for me, Korean, I didn't know how sweet it was. But now you guys know how sweet it is, right? Especially with the Hallyu and the whole K-pop, K-wave in America and the world. You guys don't understand how lucky you are. So embrace it. Did that answer your question? Anybody else? Jacob, I think you had a question.
You say you're part of the UN, right?
Yes, United Nations.
Have you been to any other countries and experienced the same problem?
Yeah, there's US isn't there's racism all over the world, no matter where you go. That's one thing that I realized, that the racism exists everywhere you go. Um, and I've met other Koreans that are from other countries, and they said they got the same thing that when they grew up. But you know, the world is becoming so globalized now, and now it's so much more acceptable being Asian. And the world is more open. So you could go anywhere proud of who you are. I mean, yeah. Be proud of who you are. Embrace it. In front of my house, I have a Korean flag and American flag, and they fly every single day.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh yeah, and also the UN. The group that I'm part of, the organization that Dosa Anchangho created 113 years ago, is registered with the United Nations. And so I invite you guys to become part of this organization, connect with your heritage. When you become part of this organization, you become part of a Korean American organization that was created 113 years ago that still exists today. And we're still fighting for Korea's independence. Look at this shirt here. You guys can get this shirt. Check that out. Did you see or was it blurred? You couldn't see it? Okay. Anyways, I'll talk about it next week. Next week I'm going to speak to you guys on Wednesday. So anybody have a question? I'm getting tongue twisted. No more questions? No more comments? All right. I'm proud of each of you. I'm thankful that you guys are taking advantage of this program. I wish there were programs like this when I was younger to guide me. I hope it helped. I hope to see you guys next week. And bring your friends. Okay. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
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 you.
you.
Thank you for coming.
Good day.
Thank you. 끝났습니다.
아, 네. 오케이, 고맙습니다.
네,
네, 그러면
수고하셨습니다.
네, next Wednesday에
네.
뵙겠습니다.
네.
제가 그리고 혹시 다시 한번 제가 여쭤보는데 8월 3일은 캠프가 있다 그러셨죠? August 3rd?
August 3rd?
네.
그때 뭐가 있어요?
저희 그 중가주 리들리 투어 가려고요.
제가 한번 다시 볼게요.
네, August 3rd 지금 이 공부하고 있는 웨비나 스타딩 하는 친구들하고 같이 이제 가기 위해서 55인승 아주 투어 버스를 예약을 해놨어요.
오케이.
그래서 마스터님하고 같이 갈 수 있다면 그쪽에 홍사단 스카우트 친구들 있잖아요.
네.
네, 같이 가면 좋겠거든요.
잠깐만요.
네,
잠깐만요.
어거스트,
요번 주가
어거스트 맞아요.
오케이. 저희가 Sunday에 캠프 July 28th 캠프 들어갔다가 August 3rd에 나와요. Summer
아,
camp, Big Bear.
그렇구나.
이틀을 가요.
오케이, 그러면 안 되겠다.
네.
그쵸. 그 세리데이 아침에 나오는 거죠, 그죠?
예,
어거스트.
아침에 나와요.
그러면 겹쳐 있네 행사가.
네. 근데 제가 일찍 나올 수 있으면 한번 트라이는 해볼게요. 연락드릴게요. 어떻게
아,
될 건지.
알겠습니다. 조금이라도 그 만일 전날 밤에 나올 수 있다면 금요일 프라이데이 나잇에 거기서 나오면은 세리데이 아침에 같이 가는 것도 나쁘지 않은데
오케이. 몇 시에 떠나요?
대한민국민에서 8시에 떠나요. 아침
오케이.
8시에.
8 o'clock?
네, 8 o'clock. 8월 August 3rd AM 8 o'clock에 아주 투어 버스가 와 있거든요. 대한민국민의 앞에.
네. 오케이.
하고 가서 돌아오면 아마 저녁에 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. 정도가 돼서 우리가 돌아올 수 있을 거예요.
오케이. 내일은 제가 또 그 옆에 단소에 가요.
단소에
예,
흥사단.
LA 컨서번시에서 학생들 20명이 온대요.
네, 네, 맞아요.
네.
그거 있어요. 네.
그래서 그거 강의하러 내일 갈 거예요.
그러시구나.
그러면 대한의 구민회는 아무도 안 계실 거죠? 네.
최영호 장로님이 계셔요. 가실래요? 얘기해 놓을까요?
그쪽 스케줄은 모르겠는데요.
네.
한번 갈 수 있다면 잠깐이라도 보여드리고 싶어서요.
그렇죠. 그렇죠.
네.
마스터님이 가셔서 스케줄표 대략 시간이 어떻게 되는지만 알려주시면
네.
최영호 장로님께 그게 가신다고 예약해 놓을게요.
네네. 그 1시 반에 오는데요.
어,
원래 그게 1시간 강의하기로 했는데요. 그 단소에서 1시간 렉처 할 게 없어요.
그렇죠.
거의 딱 보고 10분만 보면 더 이상 볼 거 없으니까요.
맞아요.
가능하면 그쪽으로 가는 거라 해볼게요.
그런데다가 바깥 날씨가 덥기 때문에 흥사단에서는 지금 에어컨디션 안 되잖아요.
네.
그러니까 거기는 그냥 쇼잉하고 약 10미닛 정도 쇼잉 시켜주시고
예, 예.
로 가셔서 스피치를 다 해주시는 것도 나쁘지 않아요.
오케이. 네.
어차피 국민의 안에 히스토리컬한 썸띵들 이렇게 돌면서 설명해 주시면 그게 뭐 흥사단의 히스토리고 국민의 히스토리니까.
네.
그렇죠?
네.
그러니까 보는 사람들은 오히려 더 눈에 비주얼한 게 있으니까 좋을 것 같아요.
네, 네. 오케이.
그거 하신다는 프로그램 제가 외부에서 들었는데 제가
네.
데이트를 하지 못했는데 내일이군요.
네, 네.
그렇게 하시면 1시 반부터 하면은 그쪽에 먼저 1시 반에 흥사단 보고 국민회 가면 약 아마 한 1시 4, 50분 정도?
Maybe. 예.
네. 제가 그
그,
정도
예.
드려놓을게요.
네. 오케이.
네. 감사합니다.
예, 감사합니다.
고맙습니다.
수고하세요.
네.
누구지? 조라는 애니 처음 보잖아. 조라는 애.